Hello friends, welcome to this video lesson. Today we are going to discuss another topic from your online course. The title of today's discussion is Education as a Subsystem of the Society. Before starting our discussion, let me to introduce myself. I, Dr. Niradhar De, Associate Professor, School of Education, Indira Gandhi National Open University. Welcome you all to this video lesson. Friends, as you know that presently you are in the 9th week of your online course, and in this week you have to study the module that is Education and Society. In this module, 3 important video lessons are there. Just like the first is Education as a Subsystem of the Society, second is Concept, Nature and Factors Affecting Social Change, and the third is Education and Social Mobility. Now let us focus upon the first video lesson, that is Education as a Subsystem of the Society. Friends, let me to focus upon some of the learning outcomes of this lesson. I am very much hopeful that after going through the video lesson and after going through the part content of your module, you will be able to explain the concept of education and how it is called as a subsystem of the society. And the second learning outcome is to describe the characteristics of education as a subsystem of the society. And further, after going through this lesson, you will be able to discuss education as a process of social, human and cultural development. How education helps for the social development, for the human development, as well as for the cultural development. I am hopeful that definitely you will be achieving these learning outcomes. Now let us go forward. Let me to focus upon the very concept of how we call education as a subsystem of the society. You might be knowing that educational arrangements acquires intricacy through a process of social change. So friends, education and society is interlinked with each other. The social development depends upon the educational system of the country, okay? Because education is the instrument that helps among the child for their own development and at the same time for the development of the society. And further we can say that education is the process which helps the members of the society to adapt to the constantly changing aspect of the society. Friends, we say that society is a ever dynamic and ever changing concept. You can't say that society is static. Every moment, every second you will find that certain aspect of the society is changing. If you remember your school days, if you remember your childhood days, you might be get enough information, enough experiences that how the things were at your childhood days in the society and how this has been changed, and what new experiences that you are getting from the society. And this is happening because of education system in the society. We call education as a subsystem because in our society you will find that certain rules and regulations are there, certain traditions, diversities are there, and for living in the society we believe and we obey the rules and regulations, the system, the custom, the culture. Then accordingly, for practicing better education, there are certain you can say rules and regulations. If I will give the example of the formal schooling, you will find that in school we have certain set of principles, we have certain set of rules, we have certain set of norms and standards. So we follow these norms and standards to be educated and to practice education. So that's why all the norms, all the principles that are being practiced in the society, ultimately that are also being practiced in education. So that's why we call that education is a subsystem of the society. To understand more, let me to say that education is an important system of the larger system of the society or the larger social system. So society is a larger entity, is a larger system, and within that society education works as a subsystem, because education trains the young mind. Education you can say helps for grooming of the child, further the work for the development of the society. And further we can say that education has a well defined structure and set of rules, and it influences other social system. I have already said that it may be a formal schooling, even if it may be a non-formal education system. There are certain set of rules, there are certain standards, there are certain norms are there. And in education system, the stakeholders of the education, it may be the children or the students, it may be the parents, it may be education institutions, teacher, administrator, all you can say follow the set rules and regulations. Now let me to define how education is a subsystem of the society by giving one definition according to Clark. Clark says that education system has a definite bearing on the society, which possesses the change in economy, political organization, social stratification, culture, kinship, as well as the social integration. Now let me to explain the definition given by Clark. First of all, education helps in the society for bringing economic change, because you will find that social development is one way or other, it depends upon the economic development of the community, economic development of the people. If the people are having economic development, they will work for the development of the society, and for the development of the political organization, empowering people, politically empowering people. It is also possible through education. Education helps for the community, for the people to understand about the political system, to understand about their rights, their duties, their responsibilities, and further that helps for developing a broad political outlook of the individual. Then social stratification. I have already said that education helps for bringing changes for for the mobility of the society. In our society, you will find that many stratas are there, and every time, every moment, every second, you will find that the system is getting changed from one strata to other strata. You will find that when economic development happens, that means the people, they move from the lowest economic strata to the higher economic strata. So accordingly, social stratification is possible through education, and further preservation of culture, transmission of culture, and development of culture is also possible through education. Then kinship in our family, in our society, how we people live with a feeling of togetherness, how we each other mingle with each other, and how we believe the traditions, how we believe the system, and how we live in our family with a common belief and common practice. So that's why kinship is possible through education. Then social integration also. We have the diversity. We consider our diversity as our strength. So that's why our diversity helps us for binding the people, integrating the people, and for developing with oneness. So that's why social integration is also possible through education. Now let me to focus upon some of the reasons for education to be regarded as a social system, as a social subsystem, and these reasons are given by William Dweller. First of all, in education, different stakeholders contribute towards achieving educational goals. The stakeholders may be the community, the citizens. The stakeholders may be the administrator. In a formal education system, the stakeholders may be the teacher, may be the educational administrators, parents, community members, the local government. Okay, so they all work together for bringing changes in the society. So this is one of the reasons how education called as the subsystem of the society. And further, education has a social structure that results of social interaction within the school. I have already said that in the family, when we come contact with the other members, it may be the senior members, it may be the junior members. So what we do, we just learn how to live in the family, we learn the culture of the family, we learn practicing the tradition of the family, and further these social interactions, these social behavior, this social acceptance helps us in school or helps the child in the school for living within a group. And further we can say that it is bound by strong social relationship and feeling of belongingness. It possesses its own culture, tradition and way of doing things. And finally we can say that education helps in transmitting folk ways, more institutional patterns in social organizations. So friends, these are the certain reasons that helps to understand education as a subsystem of the society. To go further, let me to now focus upon some of the characteristics of education which is called as a subsystem of the society. First of all, education is a powerful and strong agency towards building social individualism in the society. We live in a group, and at the same time for our individual development, for the development of the individual, we get educated ourselves, and at the same time we also you can say get many experiences. Okay, so that's why individual development directly or indirectly helps for the development of the society. So that's why we can say that education is the powerful and strong agency that helps for the social development, at the same time for the development of the individualism. Then further, education system emerges as a result of the operations and dynamics of different institutions of the society. Just like schooling, education is an institute. Accordingly, the political belief that we practice in the society, our government system, that is also an institution. The democratic society, the democratic principles, the democratic feeling, the democratic belief is also one institution. Economic development is also another institution. So that's why it helps for bringing operations and dynamism and dynamics among the institutions. And further, education system strengthens the discipline of education and gives new directions towards solution of issues and problems. In our society, I have already said that many diversities are there in our society. So when there is the diversity, definitely there is the issues, definitely there is the concerns, and there is the challenges. And when there is the issues and challenges, education helps to solve those challenges, solve those problems and solve those issues. And further, education institutions such as school, colleges help the people to practice values, norms, etc. of the society. So societal values, societal norms are being practiced in the school, because in a large scale, when the children after their formal education, when they enter in the society, when they involve themselves in different activities of the society, then definitely they have to practice the society, they have to believe the social norms. So that's why all the social norms, beliefs, practices are being practiced in the schooling system, in the formal education system, that is in the schools, that is in the colleges, and also in the universities. To discuss more about the characteristics of education as a subsystem of the society, let me to focus upon some of the other points. Just like education helps to mold the society in the desirable direction. You see, when a newborn child, if you will go through his or her behavior, you will find that mostly the behavior or mostly the tendency of the newborn child is just like an animal tendency. It is the education that helps the child to transmit, to transform and to change the animal tendency into human tendency. And further, we can say that education develops respect for social norms, values, knowledge, and make individual responsible for effective member of the society. And we can also say that education studies the interaction system that emerges from the structure and functions of human groups, and also helps the child to understand these interaction parameters in the society, how different institutions of the society are interact with each other. So the individual child, they observe it, and by observation they try to practice it. Okay, so the experience and further the practices. So that's why it also helps to understand the child to understand the society, and at the same time to understand the education system and to practice it in the society. Now let me to focus upon how we can say that education is a process of social development. First of all, education helps us for group living. Every individual, or we are the social being. We cannot live isolated. Okay, so that's why for living in the society, for living in the family, for living in the larger society, even if at our workplace also where we are working, it may be in the school, it may be in the colleges, in the offices. Okay, so we also learn, we also practice the group living standard. Okay, the group living, you can say, principle. So that's why for the social development, education helps the individual for understanding the social norms, understanding the group living norms, and accordingly to practice it. And further, for the social development, education also helps for developing positive attitude towards the society. In the society, you will find that there are individual differences in the society. No two individuals are alike so far as their temperament is concerned, so far as their attitude, so far as their aptitude and other you can say attributes are concerned. But here education helps us for developing a positive attitude and practicing those positive attitudes for living a better life in the society. And further, education helps us for practicing love and affection for living in the society and for bringing social development. It also helps for bringing changes in the society, contextualizing for the economic development, because unless economic development, we cannot say that proper social development is possible. So that's why education also helps for bringing economic development within the individual, and further for establishing a better interaction and communication with the social members, with the social groups, with the social you can say institutions. Education also helps us. And for practicing vocations, you see, economic development and practicing a profession, practicing a vocation is also interlinked with each other. Education helps us to understand a vocation, the skills required in that vocation, and further to practice that vocation for bringing changes in the society, for developing the society. And further, now let me to focus upon how education is called as, or how education brings changes for the human development. So education, we can say that education is a process of human development. I have already said that when we talk about education is a subsystem of the society, it works for the development of the society, it works for the development of the human, that's the development of the individual, because unless development of the individualism, unless development of the individual, then social development is not possible. So that's why now let me to focus upon how education helps for bringing development or bringing changes, bringing progress within the human being, within the individual. So here education helps for converting animal behavior of the child to social behavior. I have already said that a newborn child, or when a child takes birth, you will find the behavior, the attitude, the temperament of the child is not just like an individual. Okay, it's not just like a social being, rather they behave like an animal. And this is the education. Being the parents, being the elder member of the family, what do? We make the child learn that what is the manner, what is the ethics, what is the do's and what is the do nots. Then accordingly we groom the young child of the family, and we help them to learn the social desirable behavior. So that's why education helps for converting animal behavior of the child to social behavior. And further, education is also a process for human development, that is, it helps the human for the cooperation and social living of the society. We help each other. We cannot live as an individual. Okay, so that's why how to live with proper cooperation and in the society, how we help others for their development also after our own development. That is also you can say a part of human development that is possible through education. And further development of positive attitude and values. I have already said that for social development there is the need of development of positive attitude, positive outlook, and the values, positive values. Then accordingly, for bringing change within ourselves, within the individual, within the human being, development of positive attitude is required and development of positive value is required. And for self-sufficient, it also helps within the individual for self-sufficient, okay, self-dependent. Just like I have already said that how it is possible for bringing economic development of the society. First of all, we get education, we involve ourselves, we learn certain skills and competences, and further with the skills and competences we involve in a vocation, we practice in a vocation, and further that vocation will help us for self-sufficient. Okay, education helps the individual for earning the bread and butter aim, and at the same time for arranging the requirement of the individual. And further it also helps for the human development, that is to become productive being for the social development. And equally it also bring changes within the people and the society. So friends, when human development is possible and when individual development is happen, further that individual helps for bringing changes within the people, within the family member, within the societal member, within the larger entity of the society, and at the same time within the people also. Okay, so when the people, when the other member of the society will come contact with you, further they will also learn certain things and certain qualities, certain skills, certain definitely will transmit from the educated person to other persons in the society. So directly or indirectly it also helps for developing other individual and at the same time the larger society. Now let me to focus upon how education work as a process for the cultural development of the society. Friends, I have already said that our society is a very diversified society, and we believe that all the social diversities that we observe in our society are just like strength for us. These are not for our weaknesses. So that's why in the society, first of all, we have to understand our culture, our diversities, the feeling, the belief of the people, then accordingly how to preserve and how to transmit the cultural beliefs from one generation to other generations. And many a time you must have observed that many practices that we do in the society, the practices are not socially desirable. There might be certain ill practices in the society. Okay, so culture is an integrated part of the society. Unless we understand our culture, we cannot understand our society. So that's why education helps for the development of the culture. So that's why particularly if I will say that first of all education helps us for understanding the culture. You will find that in a different part of our society, in different part of our country, you will find that cultural practices are different. Okay, the languages are different, our food habit, our custom, our tradition, our rituals are different. If you go through different part of the country, if you go to the northeast part of India, you will find that the northeast states, just like the Nagaland, Mizoram, Manipur, Arunachal Pradesh, you will find that the practices are different, their culture is different. And if you go through the western part of India, it may be Gujarat, it may be Maharashtra, it may be Goa, you will also find that the culture is different. If you go through the southern part of the country, I can give the example of Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, you will also find that the culture, tradition, languages are different. Then accordingly the central part of the country and the northern part of the country are also different. So that's why unless we understand our culture and unless we understand our society, we cannot bring changes in the society. We cannot bring changes in our culture. We cannot help for the development of the culture. So that's why education helps for the cultural development of the society. First of all, we have to understand our culture. We have to understand the norms of the culture, the standard of the culture, and the cultural practices. Then further, practicing that culture, definitely we practice the culture where we live, and at the same time, when we are practicing the culture, we should understand that how things are happening in the society. Okay, and further, education also helps us for preserving that culture. What we do, we just preserve that culture for the next generation. You are not just to destroy the culture, rather to preserve the culture. And we preserve the culture for whom? That is for the next generation. They will also understand about the rich history of the culture. And further, preserving the culture will help further for transmitting the culture from one generation to other generation. Whatever things you have learned, whatever things you have practiced, you must have experienced it from your parents. And your parents, what they are doing, they might have experienced that, they might have learned it from their parents. So that's why this is a process. Cultural transmission is a process from generation to generation. Okay, from your grandparents to your parents, and from your parents to you, and further from you to your child. So that's why from generation to generation we transmit the cultural heritage of the society, cultural heritage of the country. And further, I have already said that many things in the society that require certain modification, that require certain development, that require certain change. So that's why developing the culture is also another important aspect. And how it is possible? Developing the culture is possible through education. Education helps to understand the culture, as an individual to practice the culture, further to preserve the culture, and further to transmit the culture. And when you will be doing all such things, then definitely your culture, the required development will be happening in the culture. And further, appreciating one's own and others' culture is also another important aspect, so far as to understand education as a subsystem of the society. So friends, now let me to focus upon some of the practice questions from this lesson, and I think now you might be at a position to answer these questions. Just like explain the concept of education as a subsystem of the society. Further, to describe the characteristics of education as a subsystem of the society. And further, to discuss education as a process of social development, to discuss education as a process of human development, and to discuss education as a process of cultural development. So friends, today we discuss how education is called as a subsystem of the society. I am very much hopeful that you must have understand the very concept of this topic, and this is the first lesson of your 9th module, and I am hopeful that in your you can say module wise quiz questions, and at the same time in your final examination, definitely these learning experiences will help you to do better. Thank you.